38,000 people died on one open lot in Tokyo in a single afternoon, and a lot of them died because of their furniture. They had dragged it there to save it. It is the thing that got them. That lot is a park now. People sit and eat their lunch. Look, I know how that sits. A number that size slides straight past you the first time, and it did that to me too. So I went and read the threads. You know the ones. Somebody asks what Japan keeps out of its guidebooks, and the same short list keeps coming back. There is a castle where the attacker bought all the rice first, a shrine gate standing under a lake, and a ridge in Gunma the families would rather you stayed off. That is 17 places, and almost none of them have a death toll anybody can stand behind. Number 17. Somebody turns up in Tottori and starts paying stupid money for rice, and the castle garrison cannot believe its luck, so it sells him the storehouse. That was the entire plan. In 1581, Toyotomi Hideyoshi sent traders in ahead of his army purely to strip the province of food, then drove the surrounding farmers inside the castle walls to add their mouths to the count. They ate the horses first, and after that they were on grass and roots. A contemporary chronicle of Nobunaga's wars records what came after that, and I will say it once and move on, because it does not need decorating. The starving climbed the stockade begging to be let out, and they were shot for it. And the people still inside came for the ones who fell, while they were still alive. The commander took his own life on condition the rest were spared. Hideyoshi fed the survivors, and more than half of them died from being fed. Which, when you sit with it, is a worse ending than the siege. Hideyoshi's siege camp is still up there, earthworks and trenches almost perfectly intact, protected as a national historic site. The people that starved have no marker at all. I went looking more than once because I did not want that to be the ending. Tottori took months to empty. Number 16 did its work in about 90 seconds and took a railway station down with the people. Number 16. In 1923, a hillside in Kanagawa comes down on a steam train that is a third of the way into the platform. 2 minutes before noon, the 1st of September, the Great Kanto earthquake. Nebukawa Station had mountains at its back and the sea at its feet. Lovely place to put a station. Terrible place to stand when a slope lets go. The slope lets go. It takes the station. It takes both platforms. It takes local train 109. All of it goes 150 feet, 45 meters into the bay. 112 died on that train, and rescuers recovered 5 bodies. That is 5 out of 112. The station is still open, and I did check that twice. 50 feet down in the bay lie 4 broken slabs of the old platform, rails still bolted into them. Divers still go and look at them. That one you can at least see if you are willing to get wet. Number 15 is a well you are only allowed to peer at, because of where people believe it goes. Number 15. Picture a court official in Kyoto finishing his day at the palace, walking into a temple garden after dark, and climbing down a well to start his second job. The temple is Rokudo Chinnoji, and the crossroads outside is called the Crossroads of the Six Realms, because it stood at the entrance to the old capital's open burial ground. Cremation firewood was beyond most families, so the usual thing to do with a body was carry it out here and leave it for the birds. The man in the well was real enough. Ono no Takamura, a court scholar, died in 852. What nobody has put a document behind is the part everyone tells you next. That he spent his nights down that well working for the king of hell, judging the dead, and climbed back out at dawn through a second well nearby. And then in 2011, on private land that used to belong to the temple, somebody found a second well. That does not prove anything, obviously. It is just a very good coincidence. You cannot go to it, and I quite like that. The back garden is shut. You climb 3 steps beside the main hall, take your shoes off, and you look. If you want the version of Japan that never makes the guidebooks, subscribe. Working out what actually happened in these places is the entire job of this channel. That temple has been guarding one door for 1,200 years. Number 14 is a wall, a train hit at 72 miles an hour, and it is still standing. Number 14. There is a 9-story apartment block in Hyogo with a commuter train folded into its ground floor car park and petrol running across the concrete, so rescuers cannot use anything that makes a spark. This is the 25th of April, 2005 at Amagasaki, and 107 people died. The limit on that curve was 43 miles an hour, 70 kilometers an hour, and the train came into it at 72. And the reason turned it into a national scandal. Japan's official report found a probable cause was the company's own retraining program. If a driver made a mistake, they took him off trains and sat him down to write reports of repentance all day and lose pay for the privilege. This driver had been through it 3 times. That morning, he overshot a station, so he phoned the conductor and asked him, quietly, to shrink the number. Investigators found a red pencil on the cab floor. He was taking notes about his own punishment instead of braking. A man doing homework about his own humiliation at 72 miles an hour. That picture has been rattling around my head since I found it. The building is still there, capped above the 4th floor, empty since that August. And photography on the site is not discouraged, which is what you would assume. It is banned. That was a company measuring its people in seconds. Number 13 measured them in years, and the number it arrived at was 30. Number 13? A man is lying on his side in a tunnel 2 feet wide, swinging a chisel, lit by an oil lamp that is burning up what little air he has. Iwami Ginzan is in the mountains of Shimane, and in the 1500s it was credited with up to 1/3 of all the silver in global circulation. The lamps burned rapeseed oil with no ventilation, so a miner spent his shift breathing rock dust and lamp smoke in air that was already thin. The disease that killed them was called yoroke, the staggers. Today, that is silicosis. A miner could expect to live to about 30. So the village threw a party when a man turned 30. A whole sea bream and red rice, the meal you would normally put in front of somebody turning 80. Up the hill is Rakanji, where in 1741 they began carving stone arhats for the dead miners. 501 of them sit in caves across a stone bridge, and every single face is different, because families came here to find the one that looked like the man they had lost. Of everything in this video, those faces are what I sat with for a week. 600 of those shafts are sealed. One is open, and they shut even that one in winter because of the bats. That mine killed its men slowly, and nobody in charge meant it to. Number 12 killed people as a job for 220 years and never once wrote down how many. Number 12, somebody is tied to a stake in the mud of Tokyo Bay, upside down, and nobody is coming back for him. The tide finishes the job. This is Suzugamori, the Southgate execution ground of Old Tokyo, running from 1651 to 1871. 220 years of work on a strip of land smaller than a football pitch. Crucifixion. Here did not mean hanging, it meant being tied to a post and run through with spears. And then there was the water. Now the bit this video turns on. Ask how many died at Suzugamori, and the answers run from 10,000 to 200,000. That is not 2 historians arguing over a detail. That is what it looks like when nobody was writing anything down at all. You can walk in today for nothing, on a wedge of land between 2 main roads. Both stone bases are still there, one with a round hole and one with a square one. So is the well where the executioners washed themselves afterwards. That well is what fixed itself in my head, more than the post did. So far, this video has handed you spears, starvation, and a well down to hell. Number 11 does not belong in that company at all, and you deserve the warning before it starts. Number 11. Picture an old woman on the deck of a sinking ship, picking up a 6-year-old boy, telling him there is a capital city under the waves, and jumping. Everything so far has had a body in it. This one has a body in it too, and it is still the softest thing in the video, and no, I was not ready for that either. In 1185 at Dannoura, in the strait below Shimonoseki, the Taira clan lost the last battle of the Genpei War in a single afternoon. On board was the child emperor Antoku, 6 years old. His grandmother went into the water with him rather than let him be taken. His mother survived, and afterwards said she dreamed of the 2 of them living in the dragon god's palace under the sea. So when they built the shrine, they built the gate to look like that palace. It is bright red, on the waterfront, facing the strait he drowned in. Behind it are 7 mounds holding Taira warriors, and inside is a hall with a statue of Mimanashi Hoichi, the blind musician the Heike spirits called out night after night to perform their own destruction back to them. Nobody has ever had to prove a word of that. It is the kind of story a place like this grows by itself. And every May, the shrine still holds the funeral. They are burying a boy who died in 1185, and they have not missed a year. Right, that is the breather over. Number 10 killed 118 people in a building where most of them never saw the fire. Number 10. A firefighter reaches the 7th floor and finds a man sitting on a sofa holding a glass of whiskey, and another on the stage still gripping the microphone, and neither of them is burned. The 13th of May, 1972, at the Sennichi department store in Osaka, a fire started on the 3rd floor in the women's dress section, where workmen had been in that day, and burning dresses, it turns out, feed a fire beautifully. No sprinklers, broken fire shutters. Nobody called the brigade for 13 minutes. The cabaret on the 7th floor was full, 181 people. Carbon monoxide came up the stairwell ahead of the flames, and 93 died of it before they understood anything was happening. It took 18 years to reach a verdict, and then every sentence was suspended. And the district was already this. In 1615, Sennichi was laid out as a burial ground with an execution ground attached, and the name comes from a monk who prayed there 1,000 days. An electronics store stands on the site now. On the north side, there is a small shrine, and people still leave incense at it. That fire happened in a building made unsafe on purpose. Number 9 is a mountain made unsafe by accident, and it came down at night. Number 9. Above the town of Nihama in Ehime, a mining family is asleep in a company house, and at 8:20 in the evening, the slope over their roof starts to move. The 28th of August, 1899, at the Besshi copper mine. 13 inches of rain fell that day, and the mine had stripped that mountain twice over, once for pit timber and once with the sulfur dioxide from its smelters. So nothing was holding the water. It ran off bare rock, turned into debris flows, and came down the valleys into the company housing. In the dark, with the families asleep inside. 512 people died. The company replanted afterwards, and it worked, which is honestly the part that unsettles me. The mountain is covered again, and you would never know, which means the only evidence left up there is the empty town. That town is Tonoru at 2,400 feet, 750 meters. 5,000 people lived there until it emptied in 1968, and the terraces have earned it the nickname the Machu Picchu of the East. It is shut from December to February. Rain did number 9. Number 8 was done deliberately by hand with a ladle. Number 8. 16 prisoners are climbing a volcano at dawn, singing, and every one of them knows what is waiting at the top. This is 1627 on the Shimabara Peninsula in Nagasaki. Unzen Jigoku is a field of about 30 boiling pools on an active volcano, running at 98 degrees Celsius and 208 degrees Fahrenheit. The Lord of Shimabara had come back from the capital determined to purge Christianity from his territory, and worked out he had an instrument on his own doorstep. 33 people were killed here over about 5 years. They were not thrown in, and that was the entire point. They were stripped, bound at the edge of the pool, and the water was poured over them with a ladle, slowly, because the objective was never a dead Christian. It was a living one who had given in. Later, they refined it. They cut the skin first, then poured into the cuts. One of them was a samurai called Paolo Uchibori. When the first man moved to jump in on command, Uchibori told the others to wait and make the executioners do it, because a Catholic does not take his own life. So they saved him for last. Today, and I have to say this slowly to believe it, the place is a hot spring town's main attraction. Boardwalks run over the field, people eat eggs steamed in the vents, and a cross stands on the rise above the pool. That was a country deciding what its people were allowed to believe. Number 7 is a country deciding what its children were allowed to build. Number 7. In 1945, a girl of 14 is standing at a lathe cutting shell casings because the men who used to stand there are gone, and somebody still has to make the guns. The 7th of August, one day after Hiroshima, 135 bombers came in over the Toyokawa Naval Arsenal in Aichi, where 60,000 people worked, and dropped more than 3,000 bombs in half an hour. The dead are counted somewhere between 2,500 and 2,800, and the city itself says the sources do not agree. 452 of them were mobilized students, aged roughly 12 to 19, and most of those were girls. I am not going to name any of them, and that is a decision I made, not a rule I was handed. In 2018, one corner opened as a peace park, only the third in Japan built on war ruins after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And what they chose to preserve is the part worth knowing: 8 arsenal street lamps with no bulbs in them, and a concrete drainage channel with a bomb crater gouged straight through it, left open to the sky. That was a country that could not protect its children. Number 6 is a country that could not hold on to its own mountain. Number 6. It is 10 in the morning, and a man is lying flat on his face in total darkness, being hit by falling rock while his mouth and nose and ears packed solid with mud. The 15th of July, 1888, in Fukushima. Mount Bandai had been shaking for a week, and that morning the steam explosions start. Then the summit goes. It does not erupt so much as fall over. Half the mountain starts moving. 477 died, and less than a quarter were ever recovered. About 1.5 cubic kilometers of it slid north, a wall of rock and mud over 250 feet high, 75 meters, moving at 50 miles an hour. Men who walked out to hunt that morning came home to find their village was not there. I cannot make that arrive properly in my head, and I have tried. The avalanche dammed the rivers, the water rose through the autumn, and the village of Hibara now sits at the bottom of a lake under 100 feet of water, 30 meters. Every winter the level drops and the top of the village shrine gate comes back out, along with the stumps of the trees that lined the path up to it. People fish through the ice above the town. That mountain took a village and left the gate showing. Number 5 took more than 1,000 men, and the country was told nothing at all. Number 5. In 1943, 13 minutes past 12 on a humid afternoon, one of the biggest ships in the Japanese Navy tears in half at anchor in its own home waters. Most of the crew were washing up after lunch when the magazine of number 3 turret on the battleship Mutsu exploded. 1,121 men died out of 1,474. 113 flying cadets were on board visiting that day, and 13 of them survived. Now watch what the Navy does next, because this is the one that made me angry. Yamamoto had been killed 7 weeks earlier, so the loss of Mutsu was made a state secret. The battleship anchored 1,000 meters away was ordered not to transmit a word about it. A buoy went over the site and ships were forbidden to sail there, and the survivors were scattered to remote garrisons across the Pacific, so the story could not travel with them. The captain's wife was not told until January. His body had been recovered in June. Salvage in the 1970s, after 20 years of pressure from the families, brought up 849 bodies. The Memorial Hall on the island has held a service every 8th of June since 1963. That is one ship a country was not told about. Number 4 is where a city puts everybody it has stopped counting. Number 4. Monks are loading bodies onto boats on the Sumida River 6 days after a fire because there is nowhere left in the city to put them. In the winter of 1657, the Great Fire of Meireki burned somewhere between 60 and 70% of Edo. Estimates of the dead run from 30,000 to over 100,000. And look where we have ended up again, 14 entries in. The story people tell about how it started is a good one. A long-sleeve kimono had belonged to 3 teenage girls in turn, and all 3 died before they could wear it. A priest burns it to end the bad luck, the wind lifts it off the fire and drops it on the temple roof, and it takes the city. Not one part of that has ever been shown to have happened. It reads to me like a story a city invented so 100,000 deaths would have a shape. What is real is the field on the far bank. They dug pits, put the unclaimed dead in them, and built a temple on top called Ekoin, the Hall of Prayer for the Dead. It is still standing in Ryogoku, and it is also where professional sumo began, so the crowds have never once stopped coming to that patch of ground. Hold on to that address, Ryogoku, Sumida. It comes back 1 kilometer away at number 1. That city lost count in 1657. Number 3 lost count in 1959 in a modern city with modern records. Number 3. There is a canal district in Nagoya where the timber floats, and on one night in September, the sea picked all of it up and put it through the houses. The 26th of September, 1959, Typhoon Vera, known in Japan as the Ise-wan typhoon. The surge pushed the tide almost 13 feet above normal, and Ise Bay narrows towards the city, so the water arrived taller than it started. And the harbor stored imported logs, hundreds of thousands of them, floating in the canals. The surge lifted them and drove them inland through a residential district in the dark, into houses full of sleeping people. So that is the mechanism, and it is not drowning. People were killed in their own bedrooms by timber. 5,098 people died. And because that land sits below sea level, the water had nowhere to drain, so the pumping was not finished until the end of December. Can you get your head around that? A major industrial city and parts of it still underwater at Christmas. The people never left either. What Nagoya did instead was put high water markers all over the city, so you can stand on a corner and look up at where the sea got to. 2 weeks later, when the water went down, what people found in the reeds and the paddy fields was shoes. They gathered them up, and the mound where they put them is called Kutsuzuka, the shoe mound. There has been incense on it ever since, and of the 17 memorials in this video, that is the one I would go and stand at. That mound is made of what the sea left behind. At number 2, what was left behind was written by hand, by people who knew what was coming. Quick thing before number 1. If you have got this far, tap the like button. It is the only signal that tells the algorithm a video like this is worth showing to anybody else. Number 2. 524 people have 32 minutes left, and some of them are going to spend those minutes writing. The 12th of August, 1985, on a flight from Tokyo to Osaka. 7 years earlier, that same aircraft had struck its tail on a runway, and the repair to the rear pressure bulkhead was botched. Part of the joint ended up held by 1 row of rivets instead of 3. It cracked quietly for 18,000 flights, and then it went. The bulkhead lets go, the cabin empties, the tail fin comes off. Every hydraulic line is cut in the same second. No elevators, no ailerons, no rudder. The crew flew a wide-body jet on engine thrust Ellen for half an hour, climbing and diving, and put it into a ridge in Gunma. 520 people died. 4 survived. And here comes the part I cannot let go of. An American crew spotted the wreck 20 minutes after impact, in daylight, and radioed the position. A Japanese helicopter arrived after dark, could not land, and reported from the air that there were no signs of life. So nobody went in that night. Nobody at all. Rescuers got there the next morning, and between 20 and 50 people had survived the crash and then died in the dark, of shock, of cold, of injuries that would have been survivable earlier. One of the 4 survivors testified that she could hear other people out there and that the sound stopped during the night. I am telling you this, and you will notice I have not told you how to get there. The families have marked that mountainside with individual stakes where each person was found. They climb it every 12th of August, and they ask anyone who is not family to stay away on those days. That request is the entire reason this entry is short. That is a mountainside where every single person was found and marked. Number 1 is the opposite of that, and it is a 10-minute walk from a sumo stadium. Number 1. Picture 40,000 people standing shoulder to shoulder on an open lot in Tokyo with everything they own piled around them, and at 4 in the afternoon the fire learns how to turn. The 1st of September, 1923, the same earthquake that took the station back at number 16. It hit 2 minutes before noon, when every kitchen in the city had a fire lit and the wooden districts went up. In Sumida, there was one big open space, the old army clothing depot, cleared and waiting to become a park. Nearly 40,000 people ran to it, and they did not run empty-handed. They dragged their bedding and their carts and their furniture because that was everything they had. Then a fire whirl came across the ground at them. The open lot was not open at all. It was packed with people wedged in among their own belongings and the belongings caught. More than 38,000 died on that one lot. A painter who walked the ground the next day wrote that a man built like a sumo wrestler had died on his feet, straining against nothing at all. And they built the park anyway, with a memorial hall, and under the altar, the ashes of about 58,000 people nobody could identify. Then it happened again. On the 10th of March, 1945, the firebombing of Tokyo killed around 100,000 people in one night, and the ashes of 105,000 were carried into that same building. One ossuary, 2 firestorms, 22 years apart. And it stands 1 kilometer from Ekoin, where they were doing exactly this in 1657. The hall is open to anybody who wants to walk in, and I would. And on an ordinary Tuesday, office workers eat lunch on the grass above them. There is one pattern in all of this that I walked into by accident, and it is the reason the video exists. Nearly every place here has a number attached to it, and hardly any of those numbers are real. They arrive in pairs, a low one and a high one, with an enormous gap in the middle that nobody has ever closed. And most of this is not ancient history. A lot of it happened to a modern state with filing cabinets. A death toll is not really a measurement when you think about it. It is a promise that somebody was watching. What these places share is not that the dying was worse there. It is that at some point the watching stopped, and once it stops, the number is gone for good. One question then, and sit with it before you answer, what would have to happen where you live for a number that large to simply never get written down?